Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Zath's Replay Theater, and Edgecase is joining us once again as our expert destroyer player.
I'm not sure I'd claim expertise, but I've seen a bunch of them.
Awesome, and thank you for doing this. Edge, you ranked out in a low yang, correct?
I played Kutuzov for a good chunk of it until I realized that I kind of sucked at it once people learned how to aim, and Loyang filled a nice hole in where people were playing well and not playing well. Loyang was it right around that week.
Awesome. So why did you pick Lo Yang?
So this is a ship with not a lot of firepower and one really powerful gimmick. It has a ridiculously long-range hydro. So it's sort of an excellent cap fighter, not by virtue of actually doing any of the fighting, but in fact by enabling your team to get vision that no other ship can. It lasts a minute and a half actually, and it's just a minute where they can't get close to you.
Gotcha. And we're looking here at, I think it's ihsasum. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he sent in the Charles Martel replay. It was pretty amazing. If you haven't seen that, guys, check it out. And we've got the flags, the basic Juliet Charlie for protection, speed, and consumable reload. And I guess if you don't have any other flags, those are definitely the ones you want to take, right?
Get there fast, don't explode instantly, and do it longer. Yeah, I'm a fan of those.
You mean do it more often?
Oh, that's true. That's true.
So anyway, let's take a look at some of the other ships here that we've got in our group. We've got a Charles Martel, Filthy Pelican. Former, if I remember correctly. Interestingly enough, not running any flags at all. Personally, 5-2 bracket, at least run protection. At least don't blow up and detonate.
Yeah, any ship with relatively thin protection around its citadels is a candidate for blowing up. The way that the detonation mechanic works is anything that hits your magazine has a chance to blow you up instantly. So if you're a ship that regularly can take hits to the citadel, you need to be careful.
Absolutely. I do like the Amagi is running protection. We just commented in the last video about 3 of the person's teammates were not running dead flags in their battleships, and you just never know.
And I hope this is not the video that validates your caution around this.
We'll find out, right? Stay tuned. And as we can see here, we have dead flag on the Bismarck and secondary flags. Here's another 155 Mogami. We've seen a lot of these in our ranked replays. Unfortunately, they don't seem to do much but die. So hopefully this will be a redeeming game for this Mogami.
Yeah, Mogamis are an interesting beast. They've got more guns than a Kutuzov, so they put out a lot of rounds. Assuming he has IFHE, which he darn well better if he's bringing a 155 ship. That hurts a lot. And the alpha damage from the broadside can be devastating to a destroyer in particular. So Mogami's got quite a lot of firepower, but it can't really take a hit.
Right. Running the good flags too. Yeah, the other thing too, of course, the torpedoes being rear-firing torpedoes versus Atagos that are a little bit more flexible.
Yeah, Atago's also got the heal, which is one of the reasons why it stays viable in clan battles, and I'm sorry, not clan battles, but in ranked.
Right. And then we've got the Akizuki.
Akizuki is a boat that surprised me this season. I thought its slightly larger detection would make it not viable, but in fact, once you stack everything on it, it's only got about 0.1, 0.2 worse than the other destroyers, but it has so much more firepower. Right? So I said that Loyang doesn't actually have a lot of firepower, but it's considered very powerful because of its spotting. Akizuki is the complete opposite of that. It has obscene amounts of firepower against other destroyers, but it's got really terrible handling, actually. It doesn't drive well, and it's slightly got worse spotting. So it is for fighting other destroyers. It is not for spotting them.
Yeah, this is kind of like the destroyer assassin, right? As soon as you discover an Akizuki, if you're in a destroyer, start puckering that butthole, because you're probably going to get blown up.
Yeah, if you run head on into an Akizuki in a cap, you're kind of dead.
Yeah.
In the amount of time it takes you to pull the 180 you turn out of there, you're probably going to die.
Yep. I mean, show your broadside, you get AP to death. Go bow on or stern on, you get IFHE to death. So, death is either way.
Yeah, you do not want to run into one of those by mistake. Thankfully, there's a lot of tools that make that not happen. And a lot of preventive tactics, actually, just the way that you approach a cap, for example. If you go face in straight towards the middle, then you're in trouble. But you almost never want to do that in general, so...
Right. And real quick note, so both the other remaining destroyers are using anti-det flags. Had to search a little bit for the Akizukis, but we got it. So, we see here some communication, right, within the team. Follow me to A, I will smoke you. That is incredibly strong right there, right? Because you're essentially, like you said, giving a ship that's got more guns than the Kutuzov essentially the same smoke, if not better smoke, than the Kutuzov has.
Little bit of teamwork goes a huge way. You can one technique that I saw that was quite effective, although almost nobody does it because you actually have to coordinate it, is smoking a Shapayev. Shapayev has guns that are basically the same as on the Kutuzov, but it's got an 11.7 kilometer radar. So if your teammate can cooperate enough to smoke the Shapayev into a good position so they don't know it's there, right? It travels through the smoke screen to get to its position. And then just out of nowhere radar, you can do game-winning damage just straight off the bat.
And I had a battle like that today that happened. We saw a Kiev, of all things, smoking up, and we thought, okay, that's the stupidest thing ever. And sure enough, as soon as our Lovian got on the cap, boom, there comes the radar, and he lost 2/3 of his health in that one exchange in 20 seconds.
And then he spends the rest of the game questioning his questioning whether he can go anywhere, really.
Absolutely. So I definitely like seeing that team play, that communication, especially this is in the 5-2 bracket, so we're definitely seeing better quality players, hopefully better quality gameplay as well, right?
Yeah, although, after your first 20 games of the night, you start going downhill, so occasionally you'll still see a good number of oops.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk real briefly about the team lineups here. So we've got 2 keys on the enemy team. Wow. What do you think about that?
I think that with a 2v2 battleship setup, it's not going to be so bad. Although I have seen keys deflect a curiously large number of shots, especially with the rear armor. Battleship expert will probably know more about that. But, I mean, the other notable thing about key is, of course, the rear-mounted torpedoes. Yep. So in the event that this turns into a brawl, they will be at an advantage versus at least the Amagi. Probably not so much the Bismarck, although at least it's not a Tirpitz.
Well, the one thing to note, though, you are right, and it's got the torpedoes, but in a brawling situation, the key doesn't really have good protection of its citadels versus the Amagi, which has that really nice turtleback. So a lot of people think that, but in reality, a lot of times when you get up close, the key gets punished hard for showing any sort of broadside. So,
yeah, that is also true. I've definitely seen that happen.
So we'll have to see.
That said, I'm not expecting a brawl here.
Yeah, me neither.
And if for no other reason than the green team's got a Martel, and interestingly, the red team has an Eugen.
Yeah. Now, when you played ranked and you saw an Eugen either on your team or the enemy team, what goes through your mind?
I hope this guy got here by skill and not luck, but that's what goes through my head when I see any ship.
Fair enough. Yeah, because this is definitely probably the lowest ranked cruiser to take into ranked at this point, right?
Yeah, it's certainly one of them. Hipper is a love it or hate it ship, and about 90% of the people hate it. It's because it doesn't have a whole lot of special standout qualities, like the Atago on his team's got a heal and torpedoes that face a good deal forward with 10-kilometer range. The Martel is wiggly as heck and hard to hit. Mogami is not popular, but it's got very good firepower and concealment. Eugen's got none of those.
Mm-hmm.
It does have AP rounds that deal extra damage, but it's not easier to get them in to penetrate than any other cruiser AP round. So it's a kind of opportunistic ship that doesn't have the concealment, for example, to get into an opportune position.
Right.
Nevertheless, I mean, if that guy is here because he found a way to make it work, then you want him on your team.
Right.
I feel the same way when I saw in Edinburgh. Most people go, oh look, free kill, and then he radars all the caps and hides behind islands so you never hit him, and then he blows up all your destroyers. So like, okay, well, I'm glad that guy was on my team.
Right? You can stay. And then we've got Benson, Lo Yang. I mean, essentially the Lo Yangs are a Benson with one less turret, but without the Hydro. So definitely vision control, whatever advantage to this team, right? To the green team.
Well, the two Lo Yangs will cancel each other out. And the Harakaze has better spotting range, this base concealment, than anything else on the map.
Good point. And probably running Akizuki guns.
Almost definitely running Akizuki guns, but it has fewer of them.
Now, we got to make a prediction here, and I'm going to predict that the green team's going to lose, and that's only because there are 6 premium ships on the other side, so the pay to win is much stronger on the other side.
I was actually going to comment that there's very few duplicate ships in this game. So congratulations, the Wargamer, for having this many different ships at tier.
Right.
But I'm going to predict the green team is going to win just because that's the replay sender.
And we see so many of these replays, right, where it's a win.
Well,
All right.
Nobody wants to send you a loss. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes those...
Nah, screw it, I'll send you a loss.
Please do, because I think sometimes those are the best ones, because you can analyze what went right and what went so wrong. Like our last replay, right? That could have been a loss, easily.
No, that could have been, yeah.
So,
Actually, when I look back at when things go right and wrong, and especially when you watch a replay, even your own, what you'll often find is that the moment things went wrong was not the one that you thought it was. Like, you think things go wrong when a destroyer pops out of smoke next to you, and you're like, well, now I'm screwed. But if you actually watch the replay, knowing what's going to happen, you'll see the point where you lose vision of a critical ship, or you know that you're turning the wrong way, like you should have gone the other way. And it's like, no, actually, I lost the game at this point, not the one where I actually exploded.
Yep. Quick comments?
So there's that team smoke.
It is. And normally the group on this side goes for B cap first. And these guys chose to go A cap. What do you think about that decision?
Well, one of the interesting things is even though there are 4 cruisers on the map, none of them are radar cruisers.
Yeah.
A cap is trouble when there's radar, right? Because there's no terrain in A.
Mm-hmm.
With a no radar game rather, it's not completely unviable. And they did split their Lo Yangs, which is good. So that you don't want to double up those hydros, right? Like you want them in more places, or at least you want to cycle them. You don't just want them to sit on each other, because then you don't gain any additional information.
And we see our first spot of the day, the key over there. So we know that they're going A. A is also starting to be capped. So this Mogami's in a really good position to punish whatever gets spotted.
Yes, and he's got the smoke to do it. Remember, the downside to that ship, bad HP, poor armor and HP combination, so it gets killed very easily. But with smoke, and the smoke fire and concealment on that ship, he will be able to put out a lot of damage.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Sorry, go ahead.
I would also caution that seeing the first battleship on the enemy team like this does not mean they've gone A. That key could be getting in a crossfiring position against B.
Very fair. And we notice that these 2 battleships are splitting to also create crossfires. And
which is a good idea.
Yep, and the Charles is going for the long way around flank, which also smart for a Charles player.
Yep. Although I would say they probably are going A, but that's because A is tapped by the red team right now.
Right, yeah, the evidence is pretty strong there. Shall we continue?
Yes, let's see how this goes.
I'm going to continue spectating on this side unless our Lo Yang gets spotted and starts having to shoot and stuff.
Alright, opening fire on the Atago. Probably good, but he's going to get behind that rock and repair any damage that was taken. Still, it's a good idea to keep him honest, because that ship, you will need to kill it eventually. The destroyer engagement is starting on A cap. And you're going to want to pay real close attention to the distance to the lead ships, particularly those two Loyangs. So, if I remember correctly, the hydro range is 5.43 kilometers. So, if they were to smoke up here, they're actually safe from each other's hydros. The green Loyang is turning out. He can't get closer to punish the red one. And the red one is at I think, a neutral-ish angle, but he looks like he's ready to turn out. And so neither one of them is an immediate hydro threat to the other. The red team only has one, and you can see it, so you don't have to worry about a surprise hydro.
And interestingly enough, all 3 destroyers went A, so their entire team, except for Tago and this key, went to A.
Yep, so it looks like you were correct that they went A, but in this case it's the other key that's trying to get the cross shots.
Alright, shall we continue? Let's see what happens. I definitely don't like this Loyang. I don't understand why he hasn't smoked yet.
Yeah, I'm a little curious about that, unless he's the one that put down the team smoke.
That's true, he did. You're right. And if that's the case...
that was the case, then it should not have been him.
Well, if that was the case, he shouldn't be the one moving into the cap. At the front of the team.
Yeah, or that. So the Akizuki... Okay, now the Akizuki is smoking. Thankfully, because that other enemy Loyang pulled out, there's not an immediate hydro threat, although he could come in for sure. And without smoke, both of them are vulnerable to spotting without counter-spotting by the Harkaze.
Mogami is continuing to put the hurt on whatever it can.
Wow, that is quite the torpedo indicator you've got.
Yeah.
In the meantime, the one destroyer that the green team sent took B, right?
Yep.
Because it was a 2-on-3 destroyer situation at A. They did pick off the injured Loyang, so there's only going to be this one left. I am never a fan of giving up a kill over a cap this early in the game.
Absolutely.
In fact, in general, ships are more valuable than caps.
Absolutely. And this Akizuki's taken a lot of hits too.
Yeah, and he fired, which means that once that the Benson breaks contact, he's still gonna take hits. It's gonna be mostly on how good of a shot the enemy team is, as to whether this is like a dead ship or not, but it certainly can be.
Yep. And there goes the shot. Yep. Benson goes down. That's pretty huge.
Yep, that is good.
800 hit points though.
If it's a trade, that's less good.
Alright, we're gonna go back to our replay sender.
Who is now moved over from the B cap and is assisting on A. His hydro is now on, and so he should be able to push the remaining destroyers out. The other team almost certainly had their hydro running. It's low or done at this point. Yep. So Loyang with hydro versus a bunch of things without hydro, probably okay.
And we did see him asking in the chat, has he used his hydro yet?
Yes, exactly right. Right, so this is the slightly less safe, but not super unsafe way to take the cap. Directly bow in. He can do this as Loyang, whereas other destroyers, this is a very risky thing to do, because he knows the other hydro is on cooldown, and therefore he will spot anything coming towards him before it has anything remotely like a chance of getting him.
Gotcha. And now we see radio location tells him that the destroyer, some destroyer is probably heading this direction.
Yeah, which is useful because it wasn't a given that something was going to loop down south like that.
So I do like how he clicked the map. I wish he would have said something to the team too, like especially to the Amagi, and say, hey, there's a destroyer heading your direction.
Although people, in the 5-2 bracket, I think people have generally come to an agreement that when you ping the map, it's a RPF indicator.
Right.
Okay, so something is contesting A. Almost certainly it's one of the other destroyers that is backing into the cap. I mean, I suppose it could have gone face first, but that would be silly.
Good point. Good point. And both of the remaining destroyers were stern on in the last time they were detected, so...
Yep. So because the Akizuki is so low on HP and can't afford to get spotted by another DD, the player we're watching now is sort of the only eyes of the team except for enemy ships that open fire. So I would not expect a lot of enemy ships to be spotted except these two keys, which apparently are fine with it. Notice their positions though, right? Like they have a really good 90, well, not quite 90 degrees, it's 60. Ideally it'd be a little wider, but still, it forms a really good firing angle on almost all of the green team.
Yeah.
So I'd expect to start seeing damage rack up on the green team over the next couple minutes.
This Amagi to the south is almost too far away. Or do you think it's in the right spot?
It depends what he's shooting at. Because there's no terrain in A, you have clear shots all the way up to that big island where our destroyers crash right now. But if they're playing on their default side to the east of those rocks, they can block line of sight from down there. I'm not a huge fan of the southern firing positions.
Yeah. Okay, RPF just changed. Oh, nice.
Well, there's our Loyang in smoke eating a torpedo, right?
Yep. We just mentioned that last replay. Now, spotted by planes, so he's kind of maybe panicking a little bit.
Yeah, it's outside range. Turn your A off. Okay, whatever.
And here comes Hydro. Oh, Pelican or Peregrine is the Eugen, probably, right? Yep.
Oh yeah, yep. That's the Hydro from the Eugen. Is a German ship. Does have German Hydro.
And our Lo Yang here is using incoming fire alert.
Well, it looks like it's working for him.
Yeah. So let's pause it again at this point, because I mean, what do you do at this point? 2 destroyers gone on both teams. We know that their Harakaze is probably half. Key is low. Eugen's low. Atago is healthy. One of the other keys is very healthy. Points wise, we're ahead.
Yeah. So the thing that sucks right now, real bad from the destroyers' positioning perspective, is that Eugen that's crashed against the middle island has the plane and the German Hydro, and the combination of those two means that there's like a bubble of quite sizable bubble around him that you just can't go into. So any play is going to have to take place either in the north end of B, south end of A, or on the outsides. It looks like the red battleship is pushing. I actually think he's overextending right now, and so that might be the weak point to try and pick on, is that key on the north.
The key on the north. Anyway.
The key on the north, yes. The key to the game. We've made all these before, haven't we?
Yeah. Charles is low. That's not good.
Yeah, although if the Martel goes silent and picks one of those islands, he can lob over it, or he can just show up on a really ugly flank later on. Okay, so the key is turning out. He's not going to feed. And our Loyang player here is making that play that I thought it would be maybe effective. Like, I think he might have hoped for that key to overextend as well.
Eugen is coming back the other way now towards A. Maybe a little on the aggressive side, but...
Yeah, well, notice that one of the things that's enabling him to do what he's doing right now is the fact that both of the green battleships have collapsed to the same firing point.
Yes.
So he can LOS them both from one position. He has no fear of anything, because they can't do anything about it.
Now, what is LOS?
So you want to break line of sight against your opponents, especially the ones with big guns. We see Torps going out here against the key, so maybe he'll get that. Like I said, I thought the key was turning back, and that would have been the safe play. But he is in fact still coming in, so this could cost him. We'll see. LOSing, where the Eugen was, and even had he stayed a little bit farther back, he would not have been vulnerable to the 2 battleships. Oh, yeah, here's where that push is going to cost him a lot.
By the way, the key also doesn't have a very strong torpedo defense system, unlike the Amagi, which has a pretty good torpedo defense system. So you can see there, it took more damage than an Amagi would have in that same situation.
Yeah, Loyang torpedoes are famous for not doing a tremendous amount of damage compared to, say, the Kagero ones.
Had that been a Benson that our guy was piloting, that key would have probably died. Because he was
Well,
down to like 6, I think.
Yep, he's alive. He no doubt hit repair, so in about 10 seconds that Martel will be able to start landing permafires, and he doesn't have the hit points to take it. So that might have turned the northern front.
Now, you were just saying before, and I do apologize for interrupting you there, but when the Eugen was here, right? You were saying that both battleships are the same part, so you can kind of back to here essentially and be safe.
Yes, because neither of them can hit him. Now, if you imagine one of those battleships were about 45 degrees farther to the left, or even 90 degrees to the right, you can arc shells over land like that sometimes. Maybe not that particular cliff, but you can arc from a different angle, and he would not be safe from it.
Yeah, it's an interesting cliff. I kind of like that spot.
But when your battleships are at the same position, if you block sight from one, you block sight from both, and they can't do anything.
Yeah, so let's go take a look at from the Eugen's perspective right here. Yeah, I mean, he's able to essentially angle to both.
Yes, although its armor belt is not amazingly good. Like, you'll still have citadels drop on your head through the deck or the stern or whatever, because that's tier 8 for you. But if he gets behind this rock, he's safe from them both.
Mogami is being a little maybe too aggressive. I know he's turned away now, but it might be too late for him.
Well, the Mogami was already very low, but it's a very, like I said, that ship tends to get low in a hurry.
Yep. And we can see our Loyang is pinging the key saying, shoot this guy.
Yeah, and the Martel should shoot him, but only once he's confident that he's not going to get hit by return fire.
Yep, here come the shots. And the key, there it is.
Right, so that guy's about to hit the beach. And that'll make shooting him very easy. But again, this has really never been about the key, hitting the key. The key was going to get hit. It's hard to miss the key consistently in a Martel. The problem was going to be if the key hits the Martel.
That's an island that will never trouble him again.
So one of the things I know you say often in your videos is once you're dead, continue helping your team.
Yep.
The other Loyang just gave some good advice, which is to go Cap B. And I think this Loyang player was already doing it anyway. But if you look at their ships, right, they've got a key crash in the north, and they've got 2 other ships heading out. And holy crap, they've got a key, like, heading for the South Pole. B is safe. You can take B.
Yep. And these two, yeah, it almost seems like all of them are kind of going back into kiting position right now. And the question is, what are these battleships going to do about it, right?
Right. So the answer is nothing. Because this key is in trouble as soon as... Oh, there it is. I was going to say, as soon as the fire sticks, he might just be dead. Oh, he's got repair going, so it'll hold that off for a bit. But he's in trouble. The caps are ticking. The game's still only at 540, so it won't end immediately. But at some point, they are going to have to come back in. And the red ships are not in a good way right now. So earlier I mentioned that the red battleships had achieved a pretty good cross-firing position, right? But then they did the thing that people often do, which is not take advantage of those positions or keep it, but rather they just kept going. And we saw the key got torped on the north, and we see this guy hitting the south end of the map now. And so you actually just kind of gave up that position that had been advantageous by continuing to go in that direction.
Yeah, but if you notice, the Charles just went broadside to the key. I don't know why he did that. He might get punished for it.
It'll be... Well, it's not super bad. I mean, honestly, any hit he takes at this point is going to be death. So, I don't know that broadside was what did it. But he did not get the key.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, well, the broadsiding definitely didn't help. But Martel and honestly any cruiser at this tier, all the key has to do is put the rounds on the ship, and he's probably going to die to a full pen with that little health.
Still, both caps. Bismarck is really low, though. I don't know why he's chasing the key.
He's either so close that he can't disengage, or he's like, tunneling. On the plus side, our Loriang here owns both caps.
Yep. And the nice thing, too, is that these guys... Maybe the Atago can hit the Bismarck, but, I mean, they really can't support. So it's really a one-on-one engagement there.
Yep. And so this Amagi, with all the health left, thankfully, will hopefully finish that key without too much trouble. Because he's the only battleship in firing range, he doesn't have to worry about angling against a second battleship.
Mm-hmm.
He can just engage this key full on. And I would... Wow, okay, well, those two guys south traded, apparently.
Yeah, that's fine. Maybe.
Well, I mean, they're still up ships.
Yeah.
But this key should go down. It needs to go down. It's been alive much longer than it should have. I mean, I know the Martel tried, but it's always frustrating when you see a ship with that little health get away and come back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we did see the Atago turn earlier, and it's definitely in B cap right now.
Yep.
Is he going to team smoke the Amagi? No.
And the team chat is exploding.
The team chat has exploded. Yeah.
This is the part that I hate. It's when the dead players just turn into anchors and try to pull their team down with them. Don't do that, guys.
Yeah, I mean, it was really helpful at one point, and now it's sort of disintegrated, so there was that. Oh,
Nice
takes a
one.
torpedo on the nose.
Enemy battleship foundered.
Okay, so now it's a 2v2. Battleship destroyer versus 2 cruisers. The cruisers are probably half a piece. The Atago might be slightly higher if he healed while we couldn't see him.
Taco last spotted was half. Eugen is very low.
Eugen is very low. I believe he's maneuvering for a spot that combos as a decent torpedo position. Okay, so there's the spot. If the battleship puts rounds on the Atago, because the Atago's got to sail into that cap at a bad angle for him,
Mm-hmm.
then that will be great. I would love to see the battleship stop advancing, because he's about to cut off his own line of sight against
Yep.
that Atago. Alright, he's essentially broadsided that battleship and turning out. Usually you expect somebody to turn out rather than turn in. Atago probably does have his own hydro, so the Loriang can't approach too closely.
Yep, he's being careful not to be spotted by that catapult fighter, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
Samagi is getting farmed pretty hard, though.
Yes. I'm not seeing a lot of... Really, I'm not seeing any damage come onto the Atago. Well, the Atago has come to a complete stop close to it. He's going really slow and turning.
It's nice, very close. And I like how he's not going into the cap. He's not alerting the Atago that he's anywhere near it.
Mm-hmm. Although I'm a little scared of how little we've seen from that Eugen.
Yeah.
And there
think
it is.
he-
Okay, so you can trace the path of the plane. The ship is always the center of it.
Yep.
He gets spotted by the Atago's plane, but the Atago is now in his torp field. He's going to have to turn out, takes the plane with him.
What is this Amagi doing?
He's coming back to cap? I don't know, he's getting his guns closer to the Atago, so if he puts some shells through that cruiser, we'll be in the green team will be in a much better place.
I'm just saying, he should have at least shot once. We haven't even seen any guns fire.
Yeah, and I can't tell if he's, spotted or not. Oregon's spotting range is not tremendously good, so maybe he's been silent this whole time?
I don't get it.
There's the Oregon. If the Amagi's got guns facing that way, turns left a bit, that guy's dead.
Let's see what the Amagi's doing. Yeah, he's shooting the leg in.
All right, the rounds are out. This should be a dead organ.
Good.
Okay, good. Okay, it is now a 2v1 destroy. See, so on this map, the caps are so close together that we can't rely on the same things that we can on Mountain Range. So in the previous video, we talked about how you could just sort of ring around the rosy forever. Once you had the cap advantage as a destroyer, and that they would never catch up to you because you could always back cap them just as fast as they can cap another one.
Right.
In this case, that's not true anymore, right? Because the caps are so close together that a spotter plane will catch you as you're going from one to the other. It's also only a 2-cap map. So the same finality does not apply when you have a cap advantage on this map.
I'm surprised that the there we go. I was wondering why he wasn't smoke shooting. Oh no.
Right, so the mug is done. Oh, we got the Atago. Okay.
Awesome. That was really close.
So I guess he wanted the closer shots at the end. I'm gonna err on the side of that's what his plan was.
Yeah. Or maybe he was afraid of if he does that, the Atago just starts shooting him in the smoke. But he's pretty healthy. He could take that.
I meant the battleship. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
The Lo Yang, for the most part, just did his job. Uh-oh.
Game crash. Oh well. It happens.
Too much alt-tabbing.
Yeah. All right. Well, Edge, anything else to mention to the benefit of our viewers?
No, I think the Loyang in the video played pretty well. I think that that's, for your viewers who are playing in other brackets, that's pretty much what a 5-2 game looks like. Like, that was a very typical pacing. It's a very typical kind of series of moves. So your previous 10-6 game, pretty much everybody blobbed, right? There was one massive battleship moving. In this one, there was a lot more people vectoring for better shots, so they've spread out, so you can't angle against both of them. That's, I think, a key difference. They didn't play it quite right because once they achieved that good angle, they kept driving, and that cost them a lot, right? The key on the north got torped, the guy in the bottom moved out of effective range, and then got locked into a one-on-one with the Bismarck.
Yep.
But as people continue to do these things and they continue to get better at them, I would expect that those will be more commonly thought about and more commonly done. And so people will continue to evolve the state of the game.
Agreed. Absolutely. Well, Edge, thanks for joining. That was awesome having your expert comments on the Lo Yang there. I think it's kind of cool. You saying, here's what I would probably do, and then we kind of see our guy do that.
And it paid off, so glad for him.
And your prediction was right, darn you.
Yeah, well, you encourage people to start sending you in some videos where something went wrong. I really don't know what. Those make for the best learning moments sometimes. So
100% agree.
Need some really brave souls to send in some of those.
Yep. Hear that, brave souls? Start sending me stuff, because we could definitely use it. I think this is the last of my ranked replays I have right now. So, could definitely use some more. All right, well, as always, guys, comment, like, subscribe, let us know what you think. Send replays in, and have a great rest of your day, and good luck in ranked out there.
Good luck, everybody.